Hi. Now I was working with somebody the other day who's a bit of a novice on the electric guitar. They've had an acoustic guitar for a while and play a few chords and basic rhythm stuff, but they were interested in starting to play more lead type things. So I got myself a little budget electric guitar and sat down and started to show some scales and like fingering exercises and so on to get the fingers used to play more lead type melodies rather than just chords. Now we started off predictably just with a C major scale, so showing a scale box something like this. Now that's a good starting point. It's one finger per fret, it's exercising all four fingers and that, but there's an awful lot to take in for somebody who's not played lead guitar before. There's the actual fretting down this part of the neck, synchronizing, picking with changes up of fret with your fretting hand, alternate picking, something you need to take account of, is your thumb in the right place on the neck, all these different things. And as someone who'd only ever really played chords, this sort of fingering pattern was a little bit alien. And the problem having was trying to memorize the pattern and playing through, but after say 2 or 3 strings it was all starting to go a bit haywire. There's an awful lot to concentrate on, and you might find the same thing, whether it's you're a real beginner and it's just learning your first chord, so your first scale box, or you've been playing for a while but you're presented with a type of scale box that you've never seen before, or a different way of playing a scale. And what I suggested for that is break it down into bite-sized chunks, rather than trying to learn the whole thing all in one go and then starting to lose concentration or just your fingers are getting tired. Learn it in sections. So what I suggested was just play it in pairs of strings. Now the whole scale box goes across 6 strings, but just play it 2 strings at a time. Just play the first 2 strings and play that through. Concentrate on all the things you need to concentrate on, playing the right fingers in the right frets, keeping the finger on the string after you've played it, so you're playing something like, rather than taking your finger off to play the next note. Your picking technique, make sure you're using good alternate picking, making sure that every note lasts as long as the other, and just play through so you can just concentrate on, you only need to remember the pattern for the notes across 2 strings. And if you play that over and over and over, eventually it'll sink into your mind and it'll kind of get locked into this muscle memory that you have in your fingers. And once you've done that and you get more comfortable with that first pair of strings, move up and try the next 2. Use as a starting point, use the string that you finished on in the previous example. So before we were playing on strings 6 and 5, play the notes of the scale box through on strings 5 and 6. Over and over again. Very repetitive, but it helps you to get used to where the notes go, where your fingers need to go, keeping the picking even. And because you're starting off on the finger that you finished with last time, it helps you to link one pair to the other. And you can take that across all 6 strings, just playing 6 and 5, 5 and 4, 4 and 3, 3 and 2, 2 and 1. Just playing the notes of the scale box over and over again till it gets locked into your consciousness and locked into your muscle memory and so on. And then it should be much easier to go back, start at the start and go all the way through the scale box. So it's just a case of breaking things down into manageable chunks and then assembling those chunks into a greater whole. And you can do the same thing for the descending scale pattern as well. So that's something you could use for anything that you need to learn, whether it's a scale box like that, or if you're trying to learn a particularly heavy chord progression, loads of chord shapes that you've never played before, or just play them as changes. If you've got a going from one chord to another, just play going from one chord to another, one chord to another, one chord to another, to get your hands around the change. And then once you're familiar with that and you've got your fingers around that, then practice going from that chord to the next chord, and so on until you can put the whole thing together as one progression. It helps your concentration, and it minimises the chance of you making mistakes as you going through. Because as I say, you've got this muscle memory, and if you make the same mistake over and over again, that'll kind of get locked into your muscle memory, and you'll end up playing that almost automatically, playing it the wrong way because you've played it the wrong way so many times. So if you can kind of minimise the number of mistakes that you make, you can get better quality, sort of like a better hit rate of playing the notes right. Then you've got those those fingerings, those chord changes or whatever kind of locked into your muscle memory, and they'll come more naturally. So something to think about if you're learning something new, rather than trying to learn it in its entirety, just do it in a little section by section, and then put the whole thing together, and hopefully that should help you to learn things a bit more easily, and to cut out the number of mistakes that you make. So hope you found that useful, and I'll see you in another video sometime soon. Bye for now.